We're awfully proud to have you all back here, deeply honored by your presence, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts. I'm not going to take up any more time. I'm going to pass it to Keisha, and Keisha is going to take it from here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Keisha. I'm a fourth-year journalism major here at the University of Georgia and Grady Ambassador. I'm so excited to be moderating this panel with these wonderful honorees and who were once in our shoes and now have gone to accomplish amazing things in their career. So today we'll be hearing more about their experiences and advice. And without further ado, welcome to 40 Under 40 Message to My Younger Self. And I will now turn it on to our panel, and we can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Angelique Jackson. I'm class of 2012. I think I was the first class of digital and broadcast journalism, but it says broadcast news on my degree.
I'm Kristina Kelly. I graduated in 2008 with a PR degree.
My name's Loree in Paradise. I was class of 2011. I think I must have been the last broadcast news degree, and I work for the Lieutenant Governor's office.
My name is Juanita Traughber, maiden name Cousins. I graduated in 2008 from Grady College and also have a degree from SPIA.
Thank you. So the first question is, you already told us what you studied. So what were you involved in on campus?
For me, I was a member of the Student Alumni Council. I also obviously participated in News Source as a broadcast news major, and then I was part of the group that went over to Los Angeles as part of the inaugural class of Grady LA.
Awesome. I was in PR SSA, and I also did Relay for Life. I helped with the Public Relations Committee.
I also was a music minor, so I was heavily involved over at the Hodgson School of Music, and I was, I don't know what class number I was, but I was part of the Washington semester program before we had the beautiful Delta Hall up on Capitol Hill. I was in the not-so-nice student intern dorms that were there.
I was a bit everywhere and overcommitted as usual. So my freshman year, I did crew. I was a walk-on for the rowing team. I also did a little bit of dance with Pomoja. I don't know if that's still around, the dance company. Was the senator for Grady College with the Student Government Association. But I really got my feet wet up the hill at 540 Baxter Street at the Red and Black, is where I spent 3.5 years of my 4 years here at UGA, and then I also was involved in the sorority Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Perfect. Well, while we get our guests settled.
Just in time. Huh?
Just in time. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm a SPIA Franklin Law School alum.
Everybody wants you.
Getting my steps in. I am Audrey Lewis. I graduated here in 2009 from Grady, and of course the other schools I named. My major was public relations. It was nice to live across the street and read and just walk across campus. Some of the things I was involved in, the Red and Black, wrote for the Red and Black, and Safe Campuses Now, Infusion Magazine, and Phi Sigma Pi, which is a co-ed honor fraternity. You can imagine how that goes. So glad to be here for this occasion and to see all the upgrades. It's so nice.
Thank you, Audrey. Tell us how you determine your career path, and did your major limit your opportunities?
Starting with me?
Yeah, starting with you.
Just jump right on in. So currently I'm an attorney. I do real estate and government work. The Georgia Department of Transportation is my client. Don't ask me about construction. I get that all the time. Nothing to do with the construction aspect. That probably would have been a Georgia Tech situation. But no, I don't believe that my degree limited me. In fact, I think it helped a big deal. One of the main facets of litigation and what I do centers around communication, both written and oral, and really like being able to land a message with people. People don't tend to think of it that way, but that's really what you're doing. And so you learn all of that here at Grady, in journalism school, and a lot of people, when we went to law school, struggled with the writing style because it's very different. But it took me a minute, and I said, oh my gosh, IRAC is just inverted pyramid. This is kind of cool. Get to translate it over. So I think it's one of those things that you will take into your career what you choose to take into it from school. And if you're open and kind of, I think in high school they teach you to stay in boxes, and so you get really afraid to dance outside of the boxes. But if you approach life in that, hey, I've learned the material that makes the box, so I don't have to build the box the way that the world has always told me. I have the materials, I can make whatever box I want. I think if you take that approach, whatever career you choose, you'll definitely be prepared for it here at UGA at large, and especially Grady.
So if someone told me when I graduated at 21 that I would be working in public relations, I would have thought that they were crazy, because to me, being here, I thought, in studying newspaper journalism, PR was like the dark side. Other not so nice names. So when I enrolled at UGA, my goal was to be a foreign correspondent, which is why I also studied at SVA International Affairs. So I took German and Arabic classes and was very heavy into newspaper journalism. I wanted to be Conrad Fink, if you've heard of him. But the real world was very different than the red and black. And so when I graduated, there was a recession. I didn't stay at the Associated Press very long, and decided to look for other opportunities. So I initially thought that I was going to become an entrepreneur and got an MBA before I segued into public relations. But what I will say is that the skill sets that I learned at Grady are very transferable. Being a strong writer, as you said, is imperative to almost any industry that you're in. And just having worked in the newsroom, those skill sets I still use working in PR, and it's easier for me to understand what people need, how to articulate it quickly, how to tell a story. The only thing that I wish I had done that I didn't was that I branched out to other classes at Grady besides just newspaper journalism. And I know that the classes are structured very differently now, but I would tell you while we're in class now to just as an elective dabble in different areas so that you can gather other skill sets. So I really wish now that I'd done more public speaking, that I had learned how to work a lens behind the camera, because those are things that I'm having to learn now as an adult in my field.
So in my current role, I'm Chief of Staff to the Lieutenant Governor at the Capitol. But by training, I'm also an attorney, and when I was in private practice, I practiced election litigation, lobbying compliance, campaign finance compliance. So I think kind of if you divide my career into legal and non-legal, Grady's been immensely helpful in what I've done. I think, to your point, legal writing is really hard to go when you, it's just such a different way to learn. So that was a struggle for me. But here at Grady, you learn to tell a persuasive story, and I think that helps no matter what your career field is. You know, during the 40-day legislative session, my magic number, I say, is 29. Unless you have a constitutional amendment in the Georgia Senate, we need 29 votes to pass a bill. So I've got to find 29 people that I can tell a story to and make sure the bill gets done. Or I've got to talk to a reporter about a persuasive way to explain the Senate position. So Grady's been immensely helpful in that. I would also kind of agree with your point. I wish I would have branched out and done maybe things that I was just interested in. That wouldn't necessarily help me. I remember I signed up for a Greek mythology class just because I was interested in it, and it was an 8 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday, and I went one time. I was like, maybe I want to sleep in that extra hour those 2 mornings, which I know is I should not be saying that, but I know it's everyone in class. I know you have those difficult decisions you have to deal with when class sign up comes around. But I would encourage you to do something you like, maybe not something that would you know, you may never use it, but you may, you know, if I'd have taken that Greek mythology class, maybe I would have had some tidbit that I could have brought up in an interesting conversation. So I would kind of echo your advice, branch out, whether it's here in Grady or wherever you are on campus, and just take something you're interested in.
For me, I have always been fascinated by the entertainment industry, but I cannot sing, I cannot act, and I did not want to be an agent or a manager. So I started reading People magazine at an early age and watching Entertainment Tonight, and it's always fascinating to me. And I remember one time it was a Britney Spears story, and it was like, according to the publicist, and I was in 7th grade, and I was like, what is that? I could do that. I like to write, so I remember going to the computer researching what is a publicist. Okay, you get a degree in PR, okay, I can do that. So from an early age, I kind of had this path that I wanted to follow. I remember in high school, my parents took me to LA for spring break just to kind of check it out, and they said they knew that they were in trouble when we're on the 405, it's all graffiti, and I was like, this is gorgeous, I cannot wait to be out here. I was just always fascinated by it. So while I was in Grady in between my 3rd and 4th year, I interned out in Los Angeles at Lifetime Television, loved it even more. But then I was really lucky. I stayed out there for a little while, worked more at Lifetime after school, after I graduated, and then worked for a personal publicist. Quickly decided that was not where I wanted to be. It was a whole different side of PR that wasn't me. I wanted the more network, studio, corporate piece of it. So ended up coming back to Atlanta, and I'm from here. I have a big family, and I was really lucky though that the skills I learned in LA helped me get a job here in this market. And I think that the Atlanta entertainment market has changed greatly since I graduated in 2008, which is really, really exciting. So I think there's a whole lot more opportunities here than there were when I graduated. But I had to go away to come back, and that was how I kind of got my foot in the door. And then something about PR that I've always been interested in. The skills are transferable. I love entertainment, that's my passion. Probably more passionate about entertainment than PR, honestly. But I know that if I ever wanted to move away to somewhere that entertainment wasn't as big, or if I wanted to change to a different company, I could. I could do corporate, I could do nonprofit. It's all the same skill set. It's being a strong writer and being able to tell that story and really connect with reporters like Angelique.
Well, that actually is a really good point, because it was all of the skills I learned at Grady that made me comfortable stepping onto a red carpet when I was 20 years old, because I realized if I could talk to a local representative about some ordinance that I did not understand, I could talk to a celebrity about the movie that they're in. So there was no need to be as nervous and as uncomfortable. I actually did not come to the University of Georgia to be a journalist. I, though, like you, had been a huge fan of Entertainment Tonight. I read Entertainment Weekly just, every single week. But I was going to be an attorney. I came here to be pre-law, so I was actually a history major. I was across the street, and I was taking that Greek mythology course, and anything that I could do to kind of lead me along that path. And then about midway through my degree, I came to this realization, and thankfully this lady right here, my mom, helped me come to this realization that wasn't the path that I wanted, and I should try something I'd always wanted to pursue. So I came over here to Grady, and in my first class with Professor Hazinski, hearing about all of his travels as an international correspondent, I immediately fell in love. And I learned that it all does come down to, as we've all been saying, learning how to communicate a story, learning how to tell a story. So from all of those fundamentals that we learn from day one in all of our Grady courses, that's all that I'm doing every day, now transitioning from broadcast news in the Entertainment Tonight space over to Variety Magazine. So I will say the one thing I wish I would have done was I branched out a lot outside of Grady, but I wish I would have branched out more in Grady, maybe spent some time, with the folks at the Red and Black or in some of our magazine or newspaper classes, because it was, my skills were transferable from TV to print, but it would have been a lot easier if I already knew what I was doing.
Thank you guys so much. Was there a defining moment or experience in your career path that significantly influenced your career path? And we could start here with Angelique.
Is there experience here at Grady?
Experience in general. Experience or defining moment that influenced your career path.
Probably the defining moment that influenced my career path happened on my very first red carpet. I met someone who I remember sitting across in Tate reading all of his work. His name was Mark Malkin. He worked for E! News, and I was a huge fan. And I called my mom after and I said, oh my gosh, I was at this carpet with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone and all these people, but I met Mark Malkin. And it was because he was like my journalism idol. He was writing all the things, doing all the things I wanted. I spent a lot of years working with Mark, standing on red carpets next to him, and when the time came that my career, my tenure at Entertainment Tonight needed to be over in order for me to grow as a reporter, I went to Mark and kind of flagged that, hey, I'm looking for a new job. And about 6 months later, I kind of kept continuously mentioning it. A position came open at Variety, a position that didn't exist before, a position they created for me and my skill set because he was someone who knew my work and knew that I would do a good job. And so the reason why I mention Mark and kind of tell that story is because my career is owed, and I think all of our careers are in a lot of ways owed to the relationships that we built. By every person that you meet in this business, whether it's someone you write a story about or a publicist that you work with, knowing the work that you do and knowing how well you do it, how intelligent you are, that you're committed and on time and all of those things, they will pay off when you decide it's time to make a pivot. So when I decided that I needed to, branch out and try and make something for myself, I turned to those people that I had worked alongside, and it has worked out quite tremendously. I've been at Variety for 5 years, and they've also been a place that has been able to kind of give me a lot of those opportunities that I was working for. And it all came down to basically building a good reputation with this person who'd been my idol.
I think expanding on the relationships too, I mentioned my internship at Lifetime Television. I stayed in touch with everybody I worked there with. In fact, some of them still work there. And when I came back and finished school, I was able to, I still kept in touch with them. I kept those relationships warm. I didn't wait until I needed something or wanted something. So when I said I was moving back, they were like, okay, come work with us. We have a position. And so that was really helpfor. But in that internship, I wasn't just given stuff to organize or stuff to file. I actually got to, read a script and select days we're going to have a photographer on set to get photos from. We'd get the photos back, and I would get to pick the ones we used to promote the movie or the series. I got to practice pitching. In fact, one of the first people I ever pitched in my career was Sterling K. Brown, because he was on Army Wives on Lifetime when I was there, and now look at him. So that was just a great experience. I was able to actually learn and do things and really understand what the field was. So that just ignited my passion even more. So when I came back to finish school, I knew for sure I'm going to move to LA. This is what I want to do. So I think having that internship experience and really just solidifying this is my passion. And I think that sometimes it works the opposite. I also did an internship at a nonprofit earlier in college. I was like, this is not for me. And sometimes you don't know that until you really get in there. But I think too, in my career, I've been lucky. I've worked after Lifetime Television, I worked at TBS, TNT, True TV, and Turner Classic Movies for 6 years. I'm now at Up Entertainment, where we have 2 cable networks, Up TV and Aspire TV. We have 3 streaming services, and then 2 FAST channels, which are free ad-supported streaming television. So think of stuff you watch on Roku or Pluto TV. And so being at small and large companies, I've gotten such different experiences. So I would advise anybody, if you start out at a small company, think about transitioning to a big company one day. Or if you start at a big company, look for opportunities in your career to go to a small company. The budgets and the recognition of these big companies are fantastic, but really it was working at a smaller company where I got to truly learn so much more and work cross-functionally because the teams are smaller. We've been in things where I've gotten to pick the title of our movie that we're premiering because we're small. We're able to do that. I'm able to kind of go outside my lane and not just feel like it's just PR. And that's allowed me to kind of see bigger picture with the company strategy and being on the leadership team and seeing all the parts of the business. So I think just looking for opportunities, big and small, and just seeing that there's growth in no matter what where you land.
I've had a 15-year career in politics, whether I've been in the legal side of it or a campaign side. And one thing that I tell everyone, no matter your political beliefs, go work on a political campaign. There is nothing like an election night, win or lose. In that 15 years, there've been a lot of highs and there've been a lot of lows. But I think every intern who comes into our office, at the end of the semester, we do kind of an exit interview. and I ask someone to go to law school, some want to stay in politics, some say I don't want to stay in politics, but I don't really know what I want to do, and I say go work a campaign. Whatever it is, it can be a city council race, it can be a state senate race, it can be a governor's race, it doesn't matter what it is. Go work a campaign. There is nothing like it. You will get so much experience. You'll learn what it's like to be in a very fast-paced environment. You know, you may show up to be the person that's going door to door, knocking doors, or passing out yard signs, and you may end up, you might be asked to write a media advisory or go staff your principal at a press conference. The opportunities are immense, and you have to learn how to think on your feet. And I think no matter what field you end up in, that experience is valuable. So I don't know if there's necessarily one. In 15 years, I don't even want to count the number of campaigns that I've been part of in some way, shape, or form. But there's nothing like that experience, in my opinion. I encourage everyone, whether you're in college or graduating and trying to figure out what you want to do next, the experience you'll get, the opportunities, the people you'll meet, the relationships, kind of building on what you both said, are invaluable. I still talk to people that I was with on campaigns 15 years ago. I met my husband on a political campaign. So it is just a great experience, no matter what you politically believe, where you're aligned, and no matter how big or small the race may be. That's what I encourage everyone to do. So.
And for me also, there wasn't a defining or pivotal moment in my career, but I would say I've had a series of confidence building moments where I've been presented with opportunity and said yes, perhaps too many times saying yes and overcommitted myself, but it's allowed for me to have experiences and challenges that I've been able to leverage and move forward. A lot of those happen at the Red and Black, which is very dear to me, but we were able to break several national stories and international stories, like a cheating scandal that led to the halting of the pharmacy licensing exam that was here at UGA. It started at UGA, but it wound up being a national story. We did work that changed the school's policy when it came to sexual harassment, and eventually the school created, the university created an ombudsman office. A lot of what you all say rings true in that it's about the relationship. So Fink gave me tickets to go to President Jimmy Carter's anniversary, the 30th anniversary of his presidency. And I was able to touch toes with President Carter, Vice President Walter Mondale, Madeleine Albright, and at that time wanting to work in like the international stage. Those were just amazing opportunities, and to meet international and national journalists. So my husband doesn't like me saying this, but you should say yes to everything, because otherwise, how would I have ever had those opportunities to build my confidence? So.
One of the things about coming at the end is you get to echo, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think for me, because I'm not in a traditional journalism field, but I still get to use that skill set. Sometimes I try to not broadcast certain talents because I'm like, I don't want to get volunteered. But then people are like, wait a minute, you have a journalism degree? So in a lot of the nonprofit work and boards that I sit on, people are like, oh, this is great. Like, let me use your skills. And saying yes to maybe some of those unconventional moments have led to doors that I would have never otherwise, so don't be afraid to tap into that. I just want to very briefly, and not to bring the moment down, but just to talk about when you hit tough times, those moments where you do doubt yourself, you don't know what's ahead, maybe something didn't go the way that you planned. When I was a student, I was such a planner, so that would just devastate me. That would just feel like the end, and like I would laugh at that girl because I mean, so much of life and so much of your career are the hard moments. So I would just say, if that happens, you're in good company. Embrace those moments. The networks and relationships you have built will be very useful in guiding you through those moments. UGA, but specifically Grady, has an extensive network. I graduated in '09 technically with a journalism degree because I was a double major and should have graduated in '07 with my poli-sci degree. I hit an unexpected roadblock, decided I was not going to forestall going to law school, went to law school. It was a friend that encouraged, she had done the research to find out that I really just needed to finish one class, and I could take that one class while I was at the law school. And not only did I do that, but we graduated in a recession. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to even start practicing law or have a job. And oddly enough, it was one of my classmates in that class, in the Ad PR campaigns class, that reached out and said, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. I started in this position, I got a new unexpected opportunity, and I immediately thought of you, which was probably one of the most unexpected but kindest things that anyone had done, and I still remember that. And that was based on how you conduct yourself with people now, how you handle the tough moments. So I think about that often because, yes, it's great to celebrate the wins and the success, but in the lows, I think I've learned the most about who I was as a person, but also as a professional woman as well. So I would encourage anyone, if you experience those moments, I don't want to say the cliche, it's going to be okay, because it might not feel like it's going to be okay, but there are avenues to get through it. It's not uncommon. It is a part of your story, since we're talking about telling stories, and it's just as important as the other parts, and it doesn't diminish who you are. In fact, I would say it really does define who you are.
That was amazing advice that many of us will take with us because we get it post-grad. Woo! If any one of you guys made a big geographical change, like you came from college in Athens to either a big city or just a new city, what advice would you give for most of us in post-grad?
So I started at AP in the Atlanta office, which was like literally down the street from where I grew up. And then 3 months into that career, they transferred me to the Nashville office. I did not know anyone in Nashville. My friend said you should get a dog. So I did. But the way that I really met people was the organizations that I was a member of, like in Atlanta and in Athens, I just reached out to their chapters in Nashville. So like the National Association of Black Journalists, my sorority, and Nashville is kind of a small city, so everyone knows everyone. But just get involved, find like civic organizations. For me, that was like Junior League. That you can, or the Chamber of Commerce likely has some kind of junior program for young professionals. But those are relatively inexpensive ways for you to meet other people socially and professionally.
So my last semester at UGA, I did the Washington semester program, and Don DeMaria does an amazing job heading that up, and that's another one that I encourage anyone to go do. So I went from, I was here for 3.5 years and then went to Washington. While I was in the program, I actually got a job from a congressman from Texas. So while I was in DC, I worked for Congressman John Culberson, no longer in Congress, from Houston, Texas, and then Congressman David McKinley from Northern West Virginia, who's no longer there. And having those experiences was great. I'd never been to Texas, didn't really know anyone from Texas. I'd never been to West Virginia, very different politics. And it was a lot of fun to just meet folks. When you're in DC and you're working in a state delegation, it was fun to be with everyone I knew from Georgia when I was working for then Congress, or interning for Congressman Kingston in the program. But then to go to Texas and you meet, you're having to communicate with these other members from the state you're working for, and then the same thing in West Virginia. That was very interesting, and I think how I met a lot of folks. And then moved back to Georgia, ran a congressional campaign, met my husband, who's from Kansas City, and I actually moved out to Kansas City and was there for about almost 4 years. And I went to the University of Kansas for law school. So because he was from there, I had a little bit of a built-in support system, and my in-laws were there, which was great. But putting yourself out there, meeting folks, I've probably shouldn't say this, but we moved out there, and 3 weeks in, my husband came to me and said, hey, I've got to go run a congressional campaign in Mississippi for 6 months. So I lived with my in-laws for 6 months by myself after moving halfway across the country, which my face at the time when he came in and told me was not as happy as it is right now. But that forced me to figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and kind of build my own life out in Kansas City. And we loved it and had a great 4 years, and moved back when we started our family. With the one I keep telling to be quiet up here at the front. So yeah, those were kind of big geographic changes I had. I will tell you, Dr. Lee, I was just speaking with someone about him earlier. He was my absolute favorite professor here. I know he's no longer here, communications law. He prepared me better than anyone for law school. He was great. He'd scare you to death those first couple days, but he was a lot of fun. And he encouraged me then, before I went to DC, to go out and he said, go somewhere different, try something out of your comfort zone. And that's some of the best advice that I've ever had, and that I've really kept with me, and I'm glad I followed through on it. So.
Dr. Lee was also my scariest class. I had to take notes reading the newspaper every night to be prepared for pop quizzes, and it still haunts me. But I learned more in that class than anything else. I think for me, I talked about the internship. I think if you're hesitant to intern in New York City, intern in LA before you actually make the permanent move while you're still in school, so you have a little bit of that comfort zone. And then just connect with other people. In fact, when I went out there, I was part of Southern California Dogs, where we would get together at 9 a.m. at a bar on a Saturday, eat wings, and watch the Georgia game. And it allowed me to meet a lot of people who had also graduated from UGA. And in fact, when I was in California, I worked with more UGA grads than I did in Atlanta, which is really interesting. So there's a lot of us out there. I'm here now, but there's a lot of them out there. So I think you'd be surprised. So kind of start researching and connecting with people even before you move. LinkedIn is a great tool, and just who you speak with. Hey, do you know anybody who lives in LA? They went to Georgia. Everybody wants to help. No one's gonna if you reach out, people want to help. They want to say hi. They want to do what they can for you. So.
Well, I have to, again, thank you for building that. You went out there 4 years before me, and the SoCal Dogs were going strong when I arrived in 2012. But that truly was, that opportunity to be able to be out there with such a large network of Georgia folks made it a lot easier. I was part of the Grady LA program, so that meant that obviously we were actually living with other Georgia students, so that made it even easier. But even when you're just trying to, find an apartment to live in or find a refrigerator to buy because they don't actually come in LA apartments, you have to, it's really nice to know other Grady students who've been there, and they remember when we were all living, 4 people to a 2-bedroom, and they'll give you the best advice of, okay, maybe try this website to look for your new place. But truly, yeah, in general, I think the internship route is probably, as much as you can, if you can, try to get out of Georgia and UGA before you graduate, because it will give you that confidence of finding a new environment, making your own life out there before you have to do it for real.
And we can bring it back to Audrey if you would like to answer.
I have not ever taken the leap outside of the state of Georgia. I always jokingly say I am not from the metropolitan Atlanta area. I'm from the other parts of Georgia. So coming to UGA and the metro Atlanta area felt like I was in a different state. But I would say that it's probably one of the things I wish I had done, just to see what was different and what was out there. A lot of my friends and colleagues have done just what they said, and I was surprised, there's a Minnesota chapter. So we're everywhere. So if that is something that you're interested in, I definitely would rubber stamp what they're saying about do it while you're young, because when you get older, you're set in your ways.
Well, since the panel was titled Message to My Younger Self, what is a message you would give to your college self? And we could start with Audrey this time.
I sat in the hot seat. Wow. If I had to give a message to myself when I was younger, I would just appreciate it more. I think there's never a time in your life where you're gonna be like, technically you're an adult, so you can do what you wanna do, but you don't really have the full brunt of the responsibility. I learned very quickly, like people no longer, when you're in college, people say, oh, you're in college, great, like let me buy you lunch. And nobody's like looking to buy you lunch now. So I think I would have enjoyed it more. I'm here and I'm gonna try not to choke up. I always think of a dear friend of mine passed. We lived in Reed together. We were Grady students together. She passed young. I think I was 28, so Deshaun would have been 27. And she actually was one of the people we met in a study room and reached like, you're always in this box studying, I'm gonna get you out. And she's like this tall, but she presented herself as much bigger. And so I would say to my younger self, I would have taken the time to really enjoy those moments, take those opportunities, because you still have some boundaries, you still have some support to help you if you get, too far out there. And just to, I never would have thought my story would have went in the direction that it went. Like if Audrey was writing the story, and believe me, since I was a kid, I always wrote plays and stuff like that. So I had really scripted it out. It was much to my surprise that life wasn't going to be like Friends or Living Single. I was going to live right around the corner from my 4 best friends, hang out at the coffee bars. But it's your story, and it's such a rich story, and you blink and you miss so many big moments. So don't miss these big moments. Athens is a great place. Grady's a great school. You have your whole life ahead of you. So I would just say a lot of times I'm checking down the box and it's okay, check this off. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Instead of really sitting in the moment and enjoying where you are. So that's what I would say to younger Audrey.
So I have 2 pieces of advice to college students. One, I would say study abroad. The opportunities are amazing, the exposure that you'll get, the experiences, and especially do it while someone else will foot the bill for you. So I studied abroad in South Africa, and that was completely funded by NABJ. And then I also spent some time in Israel and Poland through the Anti-Defamation League. And so now things are happening in Israel, and I know exactly not only what they're talking about historically, but I've been to these places and I understand the geography and the historical significance of what's happening. And the second thing I would say, and you've heard all of us mention this, is just to really build and leverage relationships. Much about life is more so about who you know than what you know. Those relationships will get you in the door, but then what you know will keep you there. I could tell so many stories about Fink, but every job opportunity that I've had or public service opportunity I've had has been just someone mentioning my name or someone speaking on my behalf.
I said this earlier when I was doing my little reel for Instagram, and my husband said, do you take that to account now? But my advice, and I'll say it and then I'll explain it, is to listen more than you speak. I think I can, if I'm on a conference call with our team and our interns, which we do weekly, I know the person who's really thought through and is confident in an idea, which I encourage all the time. Throw out your ideas to me. Tell me what you think might work. I can tell the difference between someone who is confident, has really thought through a good idea, both the strengths and the weaknesses of it, versus someone who's just trying to have their voice be heard on a conference call or in a meeting. And it goes a long way. It makes me remember a young person who comes into my office much more if I know that someone's taken the time and has the confidence in their approach and the confidence in their idea, their concept, or even just their question, than just someone who's trying to say something to go beyond my radar. So I think be confident when you have an idea. Even if someone says, well, what if you did it this way? That doesn't mean they necessarily don't think your idea is a good one. They're just trying to help you perfect it. And I think be confident when you do speak, or when you speak up and you want to speak up, do so. Don't be afraid to do that, but really think through it, rather than just someone who, and I should say, listen to the ideas of others as well to help you craft that concept and build your confidence. So that's one thing that goes a long way with me and in my world, making sure you're confident in your ideas and listening to others to kind of help you craft it and perfect it and build it before you jump in. So
I think for me, when you start looking for your first job, just remember it's not your forever job, it's your first job. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to check every box. It might not be the company you wanted or the title you wanted or the location you wanted. But get the experience, look at the good in it. Even the jobs that might not be great, there's still good in it to be learning and knowing that you'll take that into wherever you go next. I think, something to always remember is marketing is not Emily in Paris, PR is not Samantha Jones in Sex and the City. There's a whole other part of it. Yes, there's some really glamorous fun parts, but a lot of it is not glamorous. A lot of it is the behind the scenes and the skills that you're learning now with writing and pitching or whatever it may be. And then I think, too, is look for opportunities to gain your experience outside of your job as well. A lot of nonprofits are always looking for volunteers, and while it's great to be able to volunteer and whether with everybody else, I also think reaching out saying, hey, and I did this a lot, I'm a PR major or I'm studying in PR, do you need any PR help? And most nonprofits do not have people on staff or working for them who can write a press release, who's a graphic designer and can make collateral for them to post, or have a legal background, or I know you kind of touched on it a little bit about using those skills, and it gives you a chance to build your confidence because you're getting experience and you're giving back and doing a really incredible thing. So it's kind of a win-win. So, job aside, look for those opportunities. I volunteered for a nonprofit, Lasagna Love, who started during the pandemic, and it was, making lasagnas, delivering it to a neighbor who's in need, whether they had surgery or they didn't have the money to have a hot dinner, and they didn't have a PR team. So I reached out, and I was on calls with the CEO, working through the press strategy and reaching out to reporters, and I think that that's just an example of something that you can do. Again, most nonprofits don't have all of those skill sets. So if you have something unique or something that you feel really good about and want to offer, reach out, and they would love to hear from you, I'm sure.
My real piece of advice is to believe in yourself. And I mean that both in the traditional sense of, finding the thing that you love and are most passionate about and going for it. But I also mean believing in the things that you care about, that there's value in that. I always, this industry, particularly journalism and broadcast, and it's difficult because a lot of people will try and tell you what stories matter. Well, the stories that matter are the ones that you, your family, your friends are talking about. So remember that there's a lot of worth in that and that you can create a career based upon that. Don't let anyone tell you that you have to be a certain way, do a certain thing, talk a certain way. Really what makes you special, especially as journalists, is who you are. So that took me a long time to come to the full realization of, and yeah, I hope that you guys can beat me to it.
Thank you. So if our students in attendance would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
The best way to find me is probably social media or my email. My Instagram account is my name, just Angelique Jackson, and then you can read my work at variety.com, and our emails are just ajackson@variety.com.
I'm on LinkedIn as Kristina Stafford Kelly. Happy to connect there. And I'm also on the UGA Mentor platform. So if you're looking for a mentor in entertainment or just in PR in general, I'm available, so feel free to reach out.
My email is la.paradise@ltgov.ga.gov, and I'm happy to, if anyone's interested, write that down or give them a card on the way out. It's publicly available, so you can probably Google it I think on the Lieutenant Governor's website and find me. And if you're ever at the Capitol, please come by. It's chaos right now. They're doing a renovation project, but please come by and say hello. We're there on the second floor, and if it's during session, it'll be a busy day and a fun day, so just come on in.
The UGA mentoring platform, I'm on LinkedIn, and then my email address is first initial last name @usn.org.
I was going to say, I'm also on LinkedIn as Audrey Lewis. Just make sure that you mentioned that you're with Grady and that, we met. Some interesting people in their 50s. I'm also on social media. My Instagram is Legal Maven. I know. 1083. Or my email is my full name, Audrey A.Lewis, which is LEWIS @gmail.com.
Okay. I know you guys have to get to a luncheon, but we have about 10 minutes, so I would like to open the floor to any questions from the audience. Not all at once.
I had a question about networking and relationships. I know that's what we harped on, and Grady always talk about relationships. But I kind of feel like I'm bad at networking as a concept because you mentioned you have to keep relationships warm and don't make it seem like you're just using someone. Do you guys have tips for how to network well? I don't the whole setting up a coffee chat. How do you follow up? How do you maintain a relationship? I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that.
I do. It's not my jam either, or it wasn't. I was I feel awkward and I'm bad at talking about things that I don't care about, and how many, that's crazy. Can I come up with? So I understand that. I would say authenticity. So what I didn't understand, and people would be like, Audrey, what's wrong with you? I know you, why don't you tell me you need these things? And I was like, I don't want you to think that I'm your friend, or I know you because I want to use you. And they're like, what's the point of all this, though? If you don't. So understanding that the right people you're connecting with on an authentic level want to help you. Because 9 times out of 10, they probably feel like you did once upon a time. It's awkward. So I would say just be your authentic self, but if you feel like your authentic self is going to fail you. I also peruse social media and newspaper articles and things like that to keep just some handy dandy current events in my Rolodex, because I know me, I'm gonna have an opinion. So that's a way to showcase my personality, and then I don't feel like I'm on the spot, the shot clock is winding down and I'm, throwing up a Hail Mary, So that may help you, and then kind of as you practice it, it'll get more natural, because you'll just realize people are people.
I think you being here right now is a perfect example of coming to these opportunities that are here. Grady is fantastic, and yeah, exactly, he agreed. And so, but showing up to things like this, all of those events where you're gonna meet somebody where you're not having to necessarily go outside your comfort zone, but it's set up for you to network and connect with me on LinkedIn, please. I'd love to see. So stuff like that, I think you're doing those right things. I think that, as Audrey said, we've all been in that position. We've all had the awkward, hi, how are you? We've all done it, and so we want to help out. And I think that, reaching out, but being proactive about it as well. I've worked with people and mentored, officially and unofficially, and I've always had to tell them, you need to drive the relationship. If I don't hear from you, I won't know to check in for you. I need you to tell me, and then I'll work with you in my schedule if I can't meet this month or it needs to be next month. But please, I encourage us, students, to drive that mentorship relationship, because we all have a million other things going on. But as soon as we get an email, it's oh, yes, we might not respond right away, but it is something that we want to help. We want to do what we can to help. So I think just be confident in that, and don't feel like you're bothering us. Don't feel like you're bothering someone. That, we've all been there. We want to help.
Go ahead.
I would say there are 3 words that you should remember for the networking sessions and that you're going to. The words are, tell me about. So people love to talk about themselves, and they will walk away from the conversation feeling good about their interaction with you when they got to share all of their good news and their highlights. And so just tell me about your experience at Grady. Tell me about the work that you're doing. What did you think about, just remember those 3 words. And then I would say for sustaining relationships long term, LinkedIn is not sufficient enough. Everyone up here probably has connections with 1,000 plus people that they met one time, and then if someone asked them on the street, hey, I saw that you know so-and-so on LinkedIn, can you introduce me? I'll be like, yeah, I don't actually know that person. So you need to go offline, and a written thank you card goes a long way. When I've made career transitions, I typically would send a postcard to the people that I've interacted with in my previous job to say, hey, thank you for helping me with this project. It's helped me with this skill set at my new job. Or I'll send a postcard to the people I use as references or mentors, keep up with them, a Christmas card, a text message on their birthday. Like, that's how you keep the relationship warm, not just through like being someone's friend on Instagram or LinkedIn.
I would say something that someone told me early on was to kind of like jot down a note about the conversation that you had with someone to bring up later. So my friend, she would, when she met a publicist, she would put their name and then put, either who they represented or something that they spoke about, because those kinds of things really do help keep the conversation going and also help you feel more confident as you reach back out to them. So it's one of those things where if you can find out that you guys both bonded over a TV show that you like, that's actually also a real key I've found to networking, is talking about things that have nothing to do with the job. It makes both of you feel more comfortable. You're not as like, this is an extended part of my work day. We're just getting to know each other as people, because at the end of the day, that is all that everybody is. We're all just people out here trying to make it, trying to, find ways to be happy in our lives and careers. So definitely try and keep little notes of those things too.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. We have a panel full of 5 fierce women, so this is so inspiring, y'all. I also want to do a special appreciation to all my Grady family and staff for setting this up. They always continue to put on great events, so thank you. Thank you all also for joining us, and that concludes the 40 Under 40 panel.